right. I can stream. All right. It looks like we are live, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're live. Um, and oh, shit. Hold on 1 second. Let me just check OBS for a second and see if we're okay.
Oh yeah, there it is. I see it.
Yeah, so the window, that's like the viewing window. Um, Sorry, guys, if anyone is listening, we're having technical difficulties, or I'm having technical difficulties. So, just doing some checks. Uh,
I think I'm getting an echo through your thing.
oh, really? Sorry about that.
Yeah, is your volume up or something?
Uh, yeah, so that is because it it could be trying to use two different microphones. Let me turn
I
my.
think I got it.
Okay.
I think I needed to turn off the audio from mine. I think it's okay. I
Yeah,
just
I'm.
had to silence the video because it was playing through my headphones for some reason.
Yeah, right.
I don't know why.
Um,
The lag's not very bad.
no. I'm surprised about that. Uh, oh, Jesus. That is. Which window is that? I don't even know. What? Okay. That is the. I think it's. This window? No. Oh, shit. I know what it is. The stream where John Smith is bad at technology, even though he works on technology as a career choice. He's not very good at using it. Um, all right,
Is it doing
maybe.
the thing to you where it's just showing the upper corner?
Yeah, that's
The upper left corner of your
browser. Yes, that's what it
yeah,
is.
you have to go in there and switch your
Resolution settings. Is that right?
yeah, it's under settings and you have to switch it to like 19 whatever. Um
Uh, yeah. I mean,
I forget. I had the same issue when I was recording using OBS. You have to go into OBS and switch it to I don't remember what the numbers were, but it's like the only other option. You'll see it.
yeah. Or I could keep doing this forever. um, I think
I'm gonna pull
if
it up so I can tell you exactly what it is.
yeah,
Because I had that same exact problem and it took me a while to figure it out because I was like trying to Google it. I was like, what the heck is going on?
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, so you go to settings, go to video, and then go to base canvas resolution. And you probably need to switch it to 1920 by 1080
Ah,
if
shit.
you have, normal.
Yeah, everything's grayed out because I need to stop the stream and then change the resolution and then yeah. Ugh. Okay. What a pain in the ass. I mean, I could sort of see.
This is why I did like a ton of I did like privated test streams first,
Hmm.
and then that's how I figured out how like basically nothing's gonna work for me. So I didn't even try to do the live stream debate.
Well, yeah, because the way that you would have to angle these panes is sort of interesting.
Yeah, well, if you just go to, are you not gonna reset your resolution?
No, I really don't care at this point.
Okay, I mean it's pretty easy. I mean,
Yeah, there we
do you
go.
think you can work?
Yeah, there we go. So we are. So yeah, I think we're good. Um,
yeah, it looks like you got it worked out.
Yeah. All right. So this is John Smith's. This is my return to YouTube, I guess, and I want to do this stream because it's been a long time since I've uploaded anything to my channel, and I wanted to. Well, actually, there's one more thing I want to do. Make sure that. Just need to make sure it's like the right one. Shit, that's the wrong one. Man, I am doing all sorts of fuck ups tonight. Okay. Returns with friends. Get shareable link. Link to updated stream. Yeah. Yeah, okay. And then I'll slap it in here. All right. So, all right. So, yeah, this marks my return to YouTube, and here with me today we have American Empire, who does a regarding just the current 2020 election, right? Like that's the reason you made the channel.
Yeah, and politics, really, mostly the election, but also just politics in general, any like current events and stuff, mainly.
Yeah, and I guess I want to convene this. I guess I want to hold the stream mostly because it's been a long time since I've done anything on YouTube, but at the same time, there's so much stuff going on in the world right now, and we're probably not going to cover all that much in the stream except just the debates and a couple other various things. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, so I guess that's sort of like the reason why I wanted to do this. But I guess we could start out with just going right into it when it comes to the debates. I actually didn't see part of I've really just seen highlights, as in like in terms of the so like I was watching so I was watching this video, for example, from The Guardian, and it just sounded like they were all screaming at each other. Kamala Harris seemed to have had like a pretty large spotlight on her, from what I can gather. And
she won the debates. She killed it. Like,
yeah.
Compared to everybody else, especially.
It made it seem like mostly because I wasn't in the vicinity of a television. I know that sounds kind of weird because on Thursdays I'm out at a bar doing karaoke, so they don't really have the debates playing at sports bars. So I didn't get to see the debate, and I've just been busy, so I didn't really get to see it. And it seemed like Kamala really dominated, but Buttigieg had a couple of jabs in there, and people are saying that Yang's mic was not in, or like he was muted or something, or is that like just like a conspiracy theory?
Well, people are saying that. I don't I kind of said something like that as like a joke. At first, I thought people were just kind of joking, but
Yeah.
there's like people who are like, there's this video where you can see him try and say something, and they're all like, "Look, he tried to say something and he didn't." But to me, it just looked like he started to say something and then just stopped because they were moving along. He didn't really seem to want to interrupt because I mean, to say that his mic wasn't working, I don't know. I think I saw there was a clip, but I'm not sure if it was after this or if it was something someone else had taken from some other time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was Yang talking about a microphone not working, but I don't think that it was. I don't think it was from this. I'm not sure though. But it just to me, it just seems like if your mic's not working, why wouldn't you say something like, "Hey,
Yeah,
my mic's not," especially
that
if you
just
don't want
seems
to be
kind of
rude.
weird. That kind of
Be
harken. Yeah, yeah.
be rude
Sorry.
first.
That sort of
Yeah, be
harkens back to the when people were saying that uh, during like the debates in 2016, how people made up the conspiracy theory that Hillary was like being fed answers through her like microphone piece or some bullshit like that. Do you remember this conspiracy theory?
No, I don't think I'd heard about that one. There's a lot of conspiracy surrounding her. You had Alex Jones saying that he went off about her trying to open the jar of pickles, and he was like, it was pre-opened for her. She's too feeble to open a jar of pickles.
What? What the fuck? Like, why would you make a? I mean, if you make a conspiracy theory or anything, like at least like make it believable, or like about something that's worth talking about. Like, oh, like the aliens are planning to take over the planet. Like that seems
He did
like
like a full breakdown on it. He had the video of her opening it, and he's like, no, whenever you open a jar of pickles, there's a pop. You twist it, and then you see it pop, and there's no pop when she opens it. And yeah, it was pretty nutty.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it sort of kind of harkens back to a lot of those like conspiracy theories that we heard about Hillary in 2016. So um, I don't think the debates have gotten to the point where uh, we're really like focusing on a candidate. So like we have people are like throwing shit at each other right now, but as soon as they narrow down on what the candidates are, that's when you'll see a lot of the conspiracy stuff
Yeah, I mean,
come
everyone
up on
knew
the
Biden was going
candidates.
to get attacked, and I said that in the stream I did before that he was going to get. I assumed, and I said he's going to get attacked by either one or both of Buttigieg and Harris, and sure
Right.
enough, it was Harris that went.
Because
And even before that, at some point, I said that people are going to start calling him a racist or insinuating it at some point.
well,
She
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah, yeah,
did.
yeah,
The
yeah,
first
yeah.
thing she said, was, "Now, Joe Biden, I don't think you're a racist." And I was like, "Oh, she's about to call him a racist." You basically right after that, you're like, "Oh boy," and you could see because as soon as she said that, his head just went straight down. He's like, "Here
Oh
it comes,
man,
here it comes."
the Joe
And
Biden
then
sigh. Ugh,
she
I
just
feel.
butted in too. It wasn't even about her. It was a question to Buttigieg, and other people were talking, and she's like, well, as an African American, I think I get to say something about race." And there's like, okay." She just went off on Joe Biden for I don't even
I
know
think
what
she
he
did
wanted to
it.
say.
I mean, she obviously did it for political points. Like, there's
Well,
no
yeah,
other.
exactly.
She's catering to a crowd that she's supposed to represent this. The woman African American Democrat who is she's trying to cater to people who want a woman president, but someone who represents like a minority race who kind of platforms on progressive issues. Um, now,
Yeah, and that whole thing was pre-planned. You know that she'd scripted that. She was waiting for a moment to do it, and she just threw it in there because that was, and it was good. It was so like because it didn't make her look vicious. It didn't make her like come off as a bitch or anything.
right.
Like unlike Kirsten Gillibrand, who kept just jumping in to take time, and she just came off looking so bad. She just looked so unlikable. But Kamala did it in like a gentle way of just saying, and she made it personal. She was like, "I was a little girl who was getting bused to school, and you wanted me to like go to these horrible schools or whatever, Joe, because you're for segregation and your terrible racist friends back then." And it was, obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah, right, right.
um,
I think the rhetoric was definitely more. When I heard that, I feel like it was a little harsher than necessary. Um, but I mean, I guess Joe Biden is still the front runner even after the debate.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and he's going to remain probably the front runner. We'll see in
Until
Iowa,
the field narrows.
but like a lot of people are going to vote for Joe Biden. I
Oh
guarantee
yeah.
you, like it. People are saying that it's good. The race is going to be between Biden and Sanders. Uh,
Yeah, it's because that's what it is right now. I've said for a while that I don't think Joe's going to win. I think he's going to go a long way, obviously.
right.
But I think it might be Super Tuesday might be what does him in because that's going to be when the real that's
Yeah, that's where the
anytime
big
campaign wise.
swing states pitch in terms of like.
Yeah, well, it's a ton of the big states for the primary. So it's
Hmm.
I think Texas and California
Right
and
on the same
a
day.
ton of others all on one day. And so after that, that's going to kill a lot of people, and it'll be surprising if we don't know. Usually, it's basically over after that, and we kind of know who the nominee is going to be. Although people
Right.
sometimes hang around, like Sanders did,
Yeah,
and who
he
else did?
definitely hung around
Kasich did.
almost unnecessarily. It was like,
Yeah,
oh, I gotta make a
Kasich was
statement.
very
I gotta
quiet.
make a statement to the Democratic Party. Let me be clear. Let me be clear.
Yeah, that was the same way Kasich did. He hung around until all the way to the convention for no real reason. But
Well, they
um,
Cruz and Kasich through they had a stunt where they were going to campaign in separate states in an attempt uh, to like prevent Trump from basically prevent Trump from like winning like one like either of the states. So I forget which state it was, but for the Republican primaries, I remember that there were some states Donald Trump didn't win because his um, some of the states are caucus states, and with the caucus states, I mean, no one really votes. People vote. I think with the caucus, people vote on like the representatives, and then like the representatives basically choose who the basically who the nominee is. At least for the Republicans, Democrats in those states might be different, but I'm not familiar with specifics. Um, so
yeah, I think it's sort of the same way. But they also have the Democrats have super delegates, so that is kind of a thing a lot of people have complained about because they speculate that if it wasn't for the super delegates, that Bernie would have won, even though he never had a majority of the regular delegates either.
yeah.
But they were saying, well, that's because people don't think he can win because all the super delegates support Hillary, and it's
Well, that was the narrative that was going around for sure, and even like as I look at the they actually retired the super delegates, right? Is that
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I'd be surprised if they did.
hold on? I'm gonna.
I mean, maybe they would because it was very unpopular. A lot of people were calling for that, but I kind of doubt it.
Hmm. Hold on. I could have sworn that that they um Democrats super del reduce role of super delegates. That's what it was.
Okay, so they're just not as powerful.
Yeah. So reduced. Yeah. Yeah. So there's this huge New York Times article about it that I don't feel like reading right now, but um, it seems like they definitely. This is what like. I mean, out of all these candidates, personally, as someone who's, I mean, I would still consider myself a Republican, but I'm from a progressive state, so like Maryland is pretty damn progressive, but like our Republicans are like Hillary Hogan, and like
Yeah,
uh, Kathy, what's her face, who ran for Senate a couple years ago, who are a lot more moderate. And uh, like, I think I would probably vote for Biden, and I can tolerate Booty
yeah.
Edge.
Biden just like he pisses me off with a lot of things he says. But I mean, I have to constantly remind myself that they're all going to be saying crazy.
Because they're trying to pander, because the Democratic Party,
It's the
remember.
yeah, because it's the primary, and so once the primary's over, they'll start being more moderate. They come back
Yeah.
to the middle for the general election because the things they're saying now, like they know that the things they're advocating for are so insanely radical. Like they're talking about decriminalizing illegal immigration.
Yeah, right.
Basically, just you can
Or like
passport
removing
and
ICE
stay.
or like this sort of
Yeah,
shit.
abolishing ICE. None of them really said that on the stage. That's more of an AOC. Even though there, a lot of them have said it in the past. Warren has said it. Kirsten Gillibrand has said it.
Yeah.
Several others, and basically all of them were for every single person raised their hand saying that they wanted to give state-provided health care to illegal immigrants.
Yeah,
Like that's crazy.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's
that's not.
nuts.
That's not
I
unpopular.
honestly think that like, and the only people who would actually go through with that proposal, someone like I don't know, like Mary. I can see Mary Ann going,
Oh yeah,
trying to go through with that,
yeah.
or like a proposal like that. Dude, Mary
Yeah,
Ann,
X
like
Factor,
here's the thing,
National,
right? Like
Imagine.
people are saying that Mary Ann is going to get Mean into the Oval Office. What do you think of that?
No, I mean no, there's not a chance. I don't even think she doesn't want that. She's just doing it for publicity. If you looked up, like, because they called her an author, and that's not really accurate. Once I found out more about her, she's actually like a spiritual guru.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's so
Like,
funny? But right before this, I was searching up, like I typed in Marianne, what's her Latin, Williamson, right? Yeah. So I
yeah,
typed in Marianne Williamson into YouTube, and um, it's the funniest thing because there's she has like well, right now it's a lot of it's like debate news because everyone's searching her name. But I could have
yeah,
sworn to God that I saw like hour and a half videos of her talking about like spirituality and
yeah.
um,
That's what she's famous for.
that is
If you
so.
did like a Google image search of like her quotes, there's a bunch of them out there that are like, I don't know what you call it. It's not meme format exactly, but it's like a quote on a background with her under
Dude,
it
this
saying,
woman would not know a meme if it hit her.
no. It's not things she made, I'm sure. It's like her fans and stuff. And she's written books, and she's, into new age sort of crystal, I don't know,
Crystal ball.
like weirdness. She was on the stage talking about how it's the chemicals in the water are making us sick. We got to get the water
Well,
filters.
no. She said, we don't have a healthcare problem. We have a. Oh no, we have a don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick person, like a sick person system. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
she was talking about like she's gonna go battle Donald Trump in the shadow realm on like a fake convention or something
yeah.
with like
It's like I will
you know
meet
what
you
you're
on the
doing.
battlefield with love. Yeah, I
Yeah,
swear to God,
which
that sounds like something out of a dub of Yu-Gi-Oh. That I.
yeah, she was talking directly to him.
Oh man. But so I guess I'm sort of convinced. I mean, I'm sort of on the fence whether she's going to go further. But I feel like as the primaries come to a close, she probably won't have a
Yeah,
chance up to.
I think she'll actually make a couple more of the debates just because she is so weird that like someone's bound to like
Well,
support that.
you know what? The reason
She
why.
summons her white dragon. Yeah, probably.
Well, the thing is that like I think the reason why a lot of people are yeah, I think the reason why a lot of people are kind of going to bat, or like saying like, oh, she's gonna get mean in the Oval Office, because I think there are Republican candidates who have come out and have said, probably as like a joke, like, oh, contribute to this woman's campaign so she could be in the in the debates a couple more times. And people were like, oh, well, this is the start of meeting Donald Trump in the office, because when Donald Trump ran for office, everyone, from Bill Maher to uh, I don't know, Colbert, and even like a lot of conservative commentators, like everybody was like, oh, Trump's never gonna. It's like he's not a serious candidate. Like he's never gonna make it to the Oval Office. And next thing you know, like he goes up against Hillary Clinton, possibly the most qualified of the Democrats at that point, just from an objective perspective. Uh, goes up against Donald Trump, and Donald Trump, the meme candidate, wins, and people are like, "Oh, like I can't believe he got into office," and it's like it's sort of echoing that time quite a bit because no one took him seriously when he ran, and no one's really taking Marianne Williamson.
I never really bought the narrative that he got me into the office. Like I think because if you look at how he won, it was for some very specific reasons.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He won by a couple, like 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 in each of these three different ones. Small numbers in specific counties, and he just had a better. He campaigned in the right places, and his message was essentially a populist right-wing message, which is going to be popular
in those rural areas for sure. Yeah.
Well, there's a ton of right-wing people that they want this sort of populist economic stuff. They want more socialization. They want their jobs back. All of this stuff.
Yeah. But right.
They don't want all of the left-wing craziness too. They're socially conservative. So
they're socially
hear about all of they're socially conservative and economically progressive.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing in the Rust Belt, which is where he knocked her out and won. So I think that's way more to it than internet memes to people that probably don't vote, most of them.
Yeah, I mean, I just say memed him into the Oval Office as a way of it's just sort of marks a time at which like people didn't take Donald Trump seriously, and then once he got into the Oval Office, like everyone just treated him like a meme, and like the media literally treated him. I mean, the media got a lot of attention off of Donald Trump, right? But but at the same time, no one really treated him seriously, right? Like he went on Colbert, and Colbert asked him about like oh god, I can't. It was something like it's like how do you do your hair in the morning or something like that.
Oh yeah, well this was in the primaries, right?
Yeah, it was in the primaries.
Yeah, because all the left-wing people desperately wanted him to be they wanted him to be the Republican nominee because they thought they could easily crush him.
Right.
So that's why they were all friendly. It wasn't just Colbert. He went on to several of those shows where they just kind of had fun with him, talked to him. They weren't, calling him like Hitler or anything at that point.
Right.
Even the right wing or the left wing people were they were all every time Hillary Clinton or any of them attacked him and said like, I'm going to take on Donald Trump, like way before he was ever the candidate, they were helping him and they knew it.
Yeah.
That Hillary attacking him or even Sanders attacking him helped him win the primary because they thought he'd be easy to beat, which was
right.
Fortunately for them.
But you also have to remember about a lot of those talk shows.
As soon as he became the nominee, then it was he's a horrible racist, he's a horrible, evil, terrible man. Like that's when
right. When push comes to shove, you use whatever lines you need to in order to get as many voters as you can. But you also have to remember, like when Colbert, I've never really. I mean, he's had some funny segments on Jon Stewart's show back in the day, but I'm not the biggest fan of him, mostly because, like, this is the person who, like, would literally asked Hillary Clinton, like, meme questions, and then, like, ask Bernie Sanders serious questions.
Yeah, I thought he was better when he was doing his old...
like, making fun of Bill O'Reilly.
Conservative.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
But after he stopped doing that,
he kind of shat the bed.
He became just like every other one of these people, like Jimmy Kimmel or any of those late night comedy hosts who are Trevor Noah. Like, I don't find any of these people funny.
I don't either. Even like Bill Maher, like, is sort of starting to wane on me as well.
Bill Maher's okay. He's okay because he's not.
I mean, he's sort of an anti-theist, which I like, but at the same time, like, he gives a lot of credence to some conspiracy stuff, and like he gives some credence to a lot of like I'm sure he's for reparations of some sort, of like the whole
he might be
like anti-cop stuff.
I mean, Christopher Hitchens was for reparations.
I did not know that.
he gave a really like impassioned speech about why we should do reparations. Christopher Hitchens was all over the place. He was one of the guys that just liked. One of the reasons I liked him too is because he would just take up positions that were difficult to defend.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure if he completely believed them, but he would try to take like the hardest thing to argue for and argue for that. He supported the Iraq War.
Right, which was really unpopular at the time. I mean, it's like the biggest, it's like the most unpopular.
Like, name is synonymous with charity and goodwill, and he criticized her and said she was a horrible harpy that like hated poor people. So, like, he always did that. He was really cool.
No, I think out of the Four Horsemen, Hitchens was definitely my favorite. Late Hitchens, obviously. Not when he was not Chomsky-esque Hitchens. I didn't like Chomsky-esque.
He used to be kind of
super Chomsky-esque and like.
He used to be a straight up communist. Basically.
Right.
Everyone comrade.
but yeah, I guess like with the Democratic debates, I'm still kind of. I think at this point, my candidate is pretty much. I mean, Bill Weld announced, but he's not. I like him, but he's not going.
Yeah, I saw that. He was Gary Johnson's vice president. Yeah.
You know what the joke is though? Like if Gary Johnson wasn't on the Libertarian ticket and Bill Weld ran independently and had Evan what's his face, the independent candidate in 2016. He was like the never Trump conservative who was running for president. If they had a ticket together, I think they would have done a lot better. Because
there's a lot of them.
Bill Weld is actually a lot more moderate than he gave off during the 2016 election. I'm not sure why in the hell Gary Johnson thought it was a good idea to run. He probably just did it for publicity.
Well, he was the Libertarians. I mean, they always have a candidate. They're their own party.
Right,
their
but
own primaries, have their own debates.
But I guess. Well. Then again, I mean, I sort of would have rather had Gary Johnson over someone like Austin Peterson, who's just like a literal ANCAP, who...
Yeah. I thought about Gary Johnson for like 5 seconds, and then I was like, oh, what is Aleppo?
Yeah, fuck. Yeah, you're not going to be president.
And then Jill Stein was... God, she would have been worse. She's like... Marianne Williamson levels, except Marianne Williamson's more funny and Jill Stein was more like I'm
terrifying,
fire and like I don't know, paint myself in war paint, and she was no thanks.
I mean, if the Salem witch trials were still going on today, I wouldn't say anybody is a witch except for Jill Stein.
Yeah.
burn the witches at the stake.
Jill Stein's like an evil, wicked witch of the West. Marianne Williamson's more like the nice witch from Wizard of Oz that floated around in bubbles.
It always speaks like this and is very animated and likes talking about the crystals and makes you happy and loves to talk about love, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like choosing, like, I guess the whole practice and trying to choose, like, who you want for president is sort of like choosing, like, the best of the worst, kind of. Because... I mean, I don't really like Rand Paul all that much, but one good line he always says, is the only candidate that you agree with 100% is yourself. And like that's a fairly good point because you're never gonna get a candidate who agrees with you 100%. Even Hillary, you know, I'm sure there are things Hillary said that were like, oh my god, like why'd you take up for the Iran deal? Like, hey, Hillary, like, why did you, why'd you stand Obama so hard?
I assumed she was, like, as corrupt as everyone said she was. Like, there's no reason to doubt that. I mean,
right.
The Clintons were both, like, money-grubbing bad people, probably, but that doesn't mean they're not effective at what they're doing.
Exactly.
They take money from people and then turn around and screw them over. I mean, her whole relationship with Bill Clinton was probably a political career choice more so than like.
Oh, it was out of love
or whatever.
Marianne Williamson should be their marriage counselor.
Oh God! Yeah.
do a fucking someone write a fanfic about that. I really want to see that. Where Bill and Hillary Clinton go to couples therapy and they see fucking Marianne Williamson. Oh man,
Marianne Williamson would make it out of that room alive. I think Hillary would take her out back, maybe.
She would be too nice. She'd be too nice. But yeah, I guess I know you're set on Yang, which is sort of interesting because Yang is sort of like, in terms of the foreign policy front, I think he's like pretty clueless.
Yeah, that's obvious.
And I don't think he'd be a very effective commander in chief.
No, I think he'd be a bad president actually, but I like him as a person, and I think his economics and his automation. But yeah, as far as being commander in chief, he wouldn't be great at it unless if he just let the generals and other people in his administration run things on that end.
Right.
Okay. The only reason I really like him and support him is because I want him to go as far as possible. Because I don't think he's like, there's no way he's gonna win. Like, he's just not gonna win. But I want him to get his message. Like, if he could do what Sanders did with, because all these proposals we're hearing now came from Sanders, like the whole Medicare for all.
Right.
If Yang could do something similar, even if he loses, that would be a victory in my mind. And I expect him to lose, so I just want him to go as far as possible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Sanders was... Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Sanders was saying that it's really interesting because the Democratic Party has it has the most progressive the funniest thing about like all these people on the left who are saying like, oh, the Democrats are right wing and like, oh, the Democrats like it's like, oh, how dare they want war, like, this sort of shit, like Kyle Kalinske says. The funniest thing is that the Democratic Party platform is probably, Bernie Sanders said himself in an interview, 80% of the platform is my platform. There's 20% of it I disagree with, but 80% of it is my platform. So what does that tell you? Like, the Democratic Party has shifted to the left significantly. So over the past 10, 15 years. And I mean, I honestly think that the Sanders contingent has made the Democratic Party take a nosedive for the worse. But I mean, I'm more of like a moderate incrementalist. So again, like, that doesn't really sit well with me, but I mean, that's sort of the reality of the situation. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for higher levels of socialization, which is kind of what he was pushing for in general, but his ideas are just, like, bad. Like, Medicare for all is not...
Oh, yeah, it's...
Like, that's not... it's not like you're going to be able to go into a hospital and just get the treatment you need for free. That's insurance. It's not going to pay for it.
Yeah, and you also have to...
It's going to cancel private insurance. My view has always been that they should just have state-run hospitals, which is probably more extreme and more... like socialist, but it makes sense to me to have like because we have state-run schools. Why wouldn't you try to implement that as well? And maybe there's reasons for that.
Yeah, and I think for something like a state-run hospital, I do know that with Obamacare, the ACA, they've basically deprioritized a lot of the medical funding for things like, stuff like this is for more like minor surgeries like eye surgery or like ears or like knees or whatever, and a lot of the money is being spent on shock trauma, which is okay, but at the same time a lot of hospitals like aren't supporting a lot of their specialists anymore, so their specialists kind of have to go in to business at like a private, at like a what they call a just like a surgery center, and like the surgery center has like a number of doctors that are affiliated with that center, but normally in maybe like 10 or 20 years ago the hospital would pay for a lot of that equipment, but for quite a few specialists in the field, many of them are just paying for those from what I've heard from, I mean, my mom's a doctor, but from other doctors as well, is that they're paying for a lot of this equipment out of pocket. So, um, going into business for yourself as a doctor in the U.S. is becoming less and less of a possibility, which I kind of see as a detriment to ACA, and I wish that we would find solutions to enable doctors to be able to go into private practice and um, set up a patient contingent where people who are comfortable with seeing that doctor, right? Um,
Yeah, I mean, my thing would be to have state-run hospitals, just kind of wherever you could start setting them up, and you'd have the people would go in there, and it would be something similar to like any other kind of program that we have, like in the military, where because one of the
mhm.
arguments people always have is, well, the doctors they have to go through a ton of school and pay a lot of money, and so they need to get good compensation and motivation.
Oh
And
yeah,
my thing
for
is,
sure.
well, if you had a state-run hospital, you could have people they would provide the doctor. The doctor would enroll in a program, or the potential the candidates, whatever. They come in and they pay for all of your training and education, and they just give you that, and then you come work at the hospital and have a
Yeah,
contract. So that's kind of the way it works. Like in the military, they
yeah, they
obviously
pay for
pay
your
for all of your
expenses and
training
everything.
and
Yeah.
all of your education that's required for your job. And then once you get the job, you have to work a certain number of years,
Well,
and then
that's
you get
literally,
your
yeah, that's
license.
literally what the Navy does. There's a medical school for people uh like there's like the Army and uh there's a medical school in like near DC where basically you have to do basic training there and all this, but they pay for your expenses. But like in return, you have to be a doctor in the Navy for like
Yeah,
8 years. Um, so I think
yeah,
they
and that's
do.
what I was saying. And people complain about like government provided healthcare, saying it'd be lower quality or whatever. My thing is, well, if you wanted the higher quality, you could go out and buy it. But I think most people would be perfectly fine with a sort of minimal, like if the healthcare I had in the military was kind of minimal. You go to the hospital whenever you needed to.
Yeah.
It didn't have a like it wasn't like customer friendly or anything like that. You'd be standing in lines and they're like, go over here. You go to the dentist and you're literally just getting rotated through and they're seeing like 50
50
people a day
patients
or
a
whatever.
day, you know.
Yeah, and so it's like I
Instead
don't
of
know.
like, I mean, but some people do like the personalized treatment, and some people, not everybody only has one doctor who they go to everything for. Some people will have like a specified ophthalmologist who
Oh
they,
yeah,
or like, oh, I can, if you have kids, you'll probably have a pediatrician of some sort, right? So like,
yeah.
um,
I think you could have that. Like obviously the if it was public, it would be the quality of healthcare would not be nearly as good as private. But that's if
yeah.
it's free, it's free. It's
Well, I
like
mean, that's sort
I
of
always compare it to public schools versus private schools, but I think the difference would be even greater. If you're talking about healthcare because it's just kind of, and that's what a lot of these people are for. But they all focus on the insurance, so they don't want to do anything with the hospitals or any of that. They just want to
right.
have a public option for insurance, which is very minimal, and you're still going now to like private healthcare facilities, and they're getting paid
Yeah.
less. It's
I
covering less. You're paying some. It's
I think
I
what
don't
I've
know.
noticed what I've noticed is I think you can be for universal healthcare without wanting to strip down the entire healthcare system that exists in the U.S.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, I think you can,
well, that's what John
and
Delaney's for.
right, and
A
that
lot of the Democrats are for that. Like they're all for universal health care, which just means they want everyone to have it. But most of the moderates at this point, they're arguing for a public option, which is basically free.
right.
Everyone can
Well,
get it. But then you can have you can have add-ons, and you can have your own private insurance, and you can have better packages basically that you
hmm
pay for or you supplement, like with Medicare Advantage, which is doesn't I don't know how Medicare Advantage works, but it's an add-on to Medicare that makes it way better for basically no increased cost.
I see. Yeah, I would have to look more into like the Medicare Plan B and Plan D and stuff, uh, but yeah, I mean, I've actually been hearing about this thing called like public insurance, in that like it's like a private insurance company, but it's really like just operated by the government. So that if a public insurance came about, it would sort of be able to uh, basically not necessarily force but encourage the other insurance companies to decrease their prices on drugs and stuff. So that's an idea that I'm seeing kind of passed around now by people who kind of really keep up with this stuff, but I haven't heard anything regarding that in any of the debates. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I'm interested in hearing more about that for sure. Um,
Yeah, I don't know too much about the healthcare things other than I don't like I'm definitely think we need to do something.
for
But I
sure.
don't like canceling private healthcare, private insurance, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like those.
private
I don't like
insurance.
the
Yeah.
solutions that are being thrown out there. Like
Um,
that's another good thing about Ying's UBI stuff is just that it's such a catch-all. Like it helps everything. Like if you were to give everyone $1,000 a month, that doesn't like that will help with your insurance. That'll help with student loan debt. That'll help with whatever you need. It's sort of a catch-all. So like for me, any of these people offering socialized medicine or education or any of that, I've already have all that stuff taken care of. Like
right.
I'm good on that front. So none of that stuff helps me personally. But if I were to get $1,000 every month, that would obviously help me. Like there's no
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to
yeah,
hurt
for
anyone.
sure, for sure.
Like it literally hurts no one other than some of the richest people in the country, which would probably be paying far greater than $1,000 in taxes a month because of that. His tax plan that he would probably implement on them.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's like pretty much all I wanted to talk about in terms of like the debates.
Oh
But
yeah, we got way off topic.
oh no, 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 this is good. Because we covered a lot of different things. But uh, I did want to talk about
I'm
Iran a little
surprised
bit.
Iran wasn't mentioned more with the events going on there. Basically, all they said was we should avoid a war, and they only mentioned it like once, I think.
Well, didn't they have that part of the debate where they were like, "Oh, how many of you would?" I think it was in Wednesday's debate, or was? Oh no, yeah, it was Wednesday's debate. It's like, how many of you would get back into the Iran deal? And everybody raised their hands except for Cory
Booker.
Booker, who was like, "Oh, I just want a better Iran deal."
Yeah. Oh,
It's
that was
like,
smart. It gave him an opportunity to talk. He knew they'd go to him. Which, I'd be fine with. I want a better Iran deal too, man. Like,
I mean, I want
it's,
an Iran deal in which we have more jurisdiction as to what the hell is going
well,
on.
what I want in an Iran deal is we're probably not going to get it. What I ideally we would they would destroy all of their enrichment facilities.
Right.
They would hand over all of their scientists that are capable of doing that into our custody, and we'll take care of them, but we take all of them. Just
Mm,
completely annihilate their ability to enrich uranium. Because I was having these arguments with people who were saying, oh, well, it's a civilian program, and we have inspectors that can go in there and ensure that they're doing low yield levels, which is crazy because the exact same
yeah.
equipment you use to do that you can use to make you can use to make weapons grade uranium, and even the low yield if you can use that for other things like if
Right.
they're supplying it to like Hezbollah they
Yeah, that
could
this is the thing that a lot of people
like
like
you could
seem to don't
easily
understand about the Iran
get
conflict.
Hezbollah small amounts of highly enriched uranium, and that's all they need. Once you have the material, that's the hardest part of making a bomb. You can make a uranium bomb is essentially once you've got the material, it's as difficult as making a cannon, a gun, and you can smash it together even and make a small bomb like a dirty bomb. And you can
Right.
just strap TNT to it and blow it up in the air and make irradiate everyone in Jerusalem if you wanted to say, or you could make a cannon. You could take an artillery piece, strip it down, and then you'd be a suicide bomb. But you could basically make an atomic bomb like the size of Hiroshima doing that. That's basically what those weapons are. All
Hmm.
uranium bombs are they're called gun type bombs. Is literally the name.
Well, I thought the discussion on Iran was pretty interesting, mostly because you were you've been I think it was maybe last week. You in particular were caught in a lot of Twitter fights with a lot of YouTube personalities, and
Yeah.
I found that to be. I don't understand why they're all pissed at you. Like I don't like they're all calling you like a
I think it's
psychopath
because
and like it's like, oh my god, you're so deranged. Like why would you ever think that? And I'm sitting there like, you know this guy's right. Like why? It's like why are you just totally avoiding the potential concern of what an Iranian regime who has its that has no sanctions or has no next to no surveillance, like what they could do, right? Because I feel like with the Iran regime question, a lot of people just forget that Iran is allied with Russia and with Hezbollah and with Islamic regimes around the world. So I think people forget that really easily,
yeah.
and people just sort of see like, oh well, if Iran's like, let's say if the Iran deal prevented them from making uranium, that's certainly not good enough because um, they're still funneling money to terrorist. The regime is still funneling money to terrorist groups around the world, which was the intention of the sanctions to begin with, so they wouldn't be able to do that. However, sanctions. The problem with sanctions is that they always have a negative effect on the people. Um, but yeah, it's a really tough situation.
Well,
Um,
that's kind of another goal of sanctions, because that's what I was trying to explain to people, is that like they think everything is Iraq, and they think if we go do a regime change in Iran, or we have war with them, that it's going to be like Iraq. It's going to be a full-on invasion, like we send in hundreds of thousands of
why
troops, and
why do
it's
they
not.
always think it's a full on
Like, you
invasion?
don't have
Like
to do that. You can use sanctions to make the population suffer specifically, so they get upset at the regime and turn on them.
right,
And that's the other thing, is that people don't realize that, like, they never think, like, the whole thing with the drone and the oil tankers. They always think, oh, it's the United States just wants to go to war with Iran. They're the ones provoking because they have all the motivation. They've never stopped to think, like, maybe the Iranian regime wants things to heat up too. Maybe they're provoking stuff, because an invasion, even if it was an attack, just a bombing, that
right,
helps them, because they're right now, people are mad at them. They're disunified. Only like 40% of, like, that nation is ethnically diverse with a bunch of populations that hate each other. And
right.
if the regime wants to unite the people, having us go in and bomb some cities or kill any number of civilians would unite the population under the regime. So the regime actually wouldn't mind anything less than like a full-on invasion and war. Just some mid-grade actions, like, they might not mind that. If we kill civilians and collateral damage, even if it's the military, they can say, we're defending you from the evil enemies of the United States. So provoking us might be in their interest too.
Yeah,
And it's also
it
like,
just turns into propaganda for them.
yeah, and I think, like, I don't want an invasion, a full invasion of
I
Iran,
don't think most people
devastating to us.
don't, and like
It would
people
be
who
horrible.
criticize like hawks who think like us, they're like, oh well, yeah, so you just want to just topple regimes and like kill babies and like it's like oh yeah, you just want to provoke Islamic regimes around the world so you can say like, oh, we're the good guys. It's like that has nothing to do with it.
No,
Like people like even the most people who are pretty hawkish on this topic, like people like John Bolton. I'm sure he doesn't want a full on invasion. Like the guy, like he gets disowned by neocons all the time, right? So
no.
he
The United States doesn't want, like, most. There might be some neocons who legitimately just want
there
that
to be
zone
regime change,
weapons,
but
but
the
they
reason
haven't
why they would
taken.
want that, yeah, sorry,
Oh yeah, it could be you can do a regime change without doing that, but they have to understand, like, because we've run tests on this. In 2002, we did kind of a war games exercise, where the enemy was basically Iran. We didn't call them that. We called them Red or whatever. But it was in the Gulf of Oman, in that area, and it was about our naval battle with Iran if we were to do a full on invasion, and it was a disaster. It was like, I mean, granted, the general we put in charge would be he was way better than anything Iran would have, but
right,
they attacked, and he had only at his disposal what Iran would have, which is like small, fast boats, and low-flying planes, and they obviously had the United States Navy, which is like aircraft carriers and all that. And that general, he was a Marine general, I think, and he basically utilized them in just a really smart way and used suicide boats, speedboats.
Right.
And the end of the exercise, he had destroyed it, like the estimates would have been around 20,000 casualties, and I forget how many ships were sunk. Like just devastating losses. It was so
Mm-hmm.
it would like attacking Iran, and their military inside their borders is like three times two. It's 2 to 3 times. I think it's 2 times larger than Iraq's was when we invaded. The nation's built like a fortress. It's like the invasion of Iran would dwarf anything that happened in Iraq. Obviously, that Navy battle is not. They wouldn't do as well as our guy did, but they could use suicide boats. They
Yeah.
could
Hold
probably,
on.
even if they took
Yeah.
out even if they took out a quarter of that, they only took out 5,000 people and say 5 ships. If they took out one aircraft carrier and sunk it to the ground, that would be so demoralizing.
Right. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I sorry. I was sort of distracted
Went off
because I was sort of distracted because I realized that I didn't link the fucking chat into OBS. So to make the comments to appear on screen. So I'm a fucking idiot. but
Mhm.
but let me just do that real quick. Let me do this again. I think I need to pop out chats and then yeah. I just realized this like a hour in or whatever. But let me just do this. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
I mean
now
that's all
we
I have
have
to say
that.
on that. Really is
Yeah,
one
but
invasion of Iran. I do want a regime change, but what I said in my video was they should do it. They should increase sanctions and do like blockades and all that stuff
mhm,
to make the population hurt, and then turn the population against them. Send in CIA
right.
and
Just
special forces to arm and train rebels to
mhm,
attack the regime and overthrow them. If we can get the population to do their own regime change, a group that we support that's friendly to us, that would
yeah.
be a great way to do it.
Exactly,
Minimal,
and it
you know,
also I feel like that is more possible than because I know some hawks really support regime change in Syria, but with
oh
Syria,
yeah,
I support it too. The thing is that Syria, I mean, like the sides in terms of the Syria conflict are so vast and diverse, and it's sort of like a Game of Thrones sort of thing where each side of the Syria conflict wants its own it kind of wants its own piece of the pie, so to speak. And
yeah,
with the Iran situation, it's a lot. I mean, it's still complicated, but it's still a lot simpler because the sides are pretty clear, right? I mean, it's Iran it's the regime on one side and Russia that supports them, and then it's the U.S. and I mean, we do some of our allies are sort of indifferent to this. I mean, they don't like us. They didn't like us pulling out of the deal, and they still want to stay in the Iran deal. But effectively, this conflict is really against the U.S. And some of our allies who could be threatened by Iran's aggression and Iran itself. So I feel like you could make a much better case for regime change in Iran than somewhere like Syria, where it's essentially even more like the Wild West than
yeah.
Iran is. And
Syria would just be so much simpler and easier. Iran would be a massive. You could do it the same way in Syria, but anything we do in Iran is going to be more difficult. But yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. I think another thing is the issues in like South and Central America. Like I heard, it's actually Julian Castro. I heard today say that we needed a 21st century Monroe Doctrine, and I kind of agree with that, but probably not the same thing he's thinking.
right.
I want to get involved and like kick the Russians out of Venezuela and the Cubans, and like go in and really improve that region, because that's people always talk about. Oh, we need to stop this wave of illegal immigration.
Yeah,
You can do
right.
that easily by getting involved in those countries and fixing them and
Yeah,
doing that.
I think it's sort of a part of the debate that a lot of people forget when talking about that too, right? Like, I was just listening to a podcast a couple days ago, then they were talking about the migrant situation, and a lot of the focus was, oh, who's going to take the migrants? Well, we take some of them, and then Central America takes some of them, and Mexico takes some of them. Obviously, there needs to be a share for the migrants who are running away from Venezuela and other repressive regimes, but at the same time, that can't be it, right? So we need to find a way. We need to find solutions which will allow us to be involved in that part of the world to make sure that, if they're planning to come up north, maybe we can like set up, institutions or camps or something, not like detention centers, but like,
Camps? Really, John?
I
Gonna
mean,
set up camps at the border?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm just joking
I
about the whole the concentration camps thing.
oh my fucking god! Don't even get me started with that
You
shit.
used the word camps, man. I don't know
Okay, I must be
what you're talking about.
must be an anti-Semite now because I misappropriated the word camps.
Yeah. Didn't you hear the whole thing? Yeah, that was.
Oh, the whole what a fucking shit show, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, to me, it's like, what do you want to do? Like, if you think the conditions of those places are so terrible, you should have approved funding for them when they asked. Like, they told you this was going to happen. Like, they straight up asked for it, and they were like, oh, no, fund these horrible facilities. It's like, the facilities are horrible because they're overcrowded. And
Right, there's so
they're
many
like, oh, you're
people.
not
They're
giving
they're, they're
them
not
soap. It's like,
they're
maybe
not
because they don't
built
have
for the
money.
amount of migrants that are coming there.
Yeah. Oh, it's like historic levels.
But
It's
then,
worse
like,
now.
people on the far left are just like, oh, we're treating them like the Jews in the like the Jews uh in the concentration
Dachau.
camps in Poland,
Yeah.
and it's like it's sort of apples and oranges, dude. Like
Sort of, yeah.
like literal apples and oranges. It's like, okay, these kids are not getting Zyklon B sprayed on them. Like, just
Yeah, well, well, on the one hand, you're complaining that they don't have soap, and on the other hand, you've got people getting turned into soap. So, it's like,
my fucking god. Yeah, no. I mean, I do sort of agree that we need some more supplies and we need to build more buildings to expand the space there. But anyone coming up on Twitter, trying to compare the fucking Holocaust like per usual, just I just don't even like. I just get it. I exit Twitter immediately when I see that. I'm like, oh my fucking
on the one
god,
hand,
not
they were, like,
again.
they were shipping them to the camps, and here the people are coming, like they're
Right.
coming in caravans. It's completely, totally different. Like, I don't know, but I mean, I guess we went off again. Are we still on the debates?
We sort of we're sort of talking about like I guess the second item, which was sort of just talking about the foreign policy sort of area. Actually, I've been listening quite a bit to a couple of things regarding China, and
Oh yeah, you told me. I know nothing almost about that, so you can inform me, I guess.
yeah. So I was listening. I listened to a couple of podcasts. Actually, as of recently, there are two podcasts that I listen to for foreign policy in particular. One is The Economist does a pretty good podcast with regards to foreign policy. It's called The Economist First Person on Foreign Policy, and then I also listen to Deep Dish on foreign policy. I can probably link that on my Twitter after we're finished here, but yeah, I mean. So these two podcasts, they've both done episodes with regards to the Hong Kong situation. And if you don't know what's going on there, essentially in Hong Kong, I think it's the Chinese government that has passed, that's basically trying to pass this extradition law, which that's essentially it makes it so that you can't really defect to the Communist Party, because like Hong Kong in particular is a it's a separate entity onto its own. It's been an independent entity for quite some time, but the, the biggest problem is that with this extradition law, I think that if you would try to rebel, China's basically making an ultimatum that they're going to come in and they're going to basically almost like say that the Communist Party is like the lead is like the lead faction that basically says what Hong Kong does. And what's interesting because of what's happening in Hong Kong right now, I think they did a survey of how many people protested in the streets a couple weekends ago, and I think it was 1 in every 4 people went out on the streets in Hong Kong and protested.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah,
Oh,
so that's like
that's what I
it's like
heard.
25% of the country like
That
went
was
out.
the thing I said. I heard something in the news. That was it. I heard
Yeah,
that it was the largest political protest in history, or largest protest. Yeah, I heard that stat, and I was like, Jesus, that's insane.
yeah. So you have a couple of things going on there. You have, um, and I think with regards to from what I've heard, uh, people are still in the streets protesting, and there was a lot of conflict with the police during those days, and people were really restless, and the situation's been getting pretty bad there. So I feel like, from what I've heard, people are leaving the country to go to Taiwan because Taiwan is still independent of China, but I think eventually China will want to usurp power in Taiwan as well. I think right now they're focusing on Hong Kong because they are literally bordered with mainland China, and the Chinese government sort of sees them as literally like they should be like they're part of the Chinese people. Like why aren't they part of China, right? Hong Kong is just like this independent entity that has its own government that operates on its own, uh, away from China. Um, so yeah, I thought that was super interesting, but um, I also listened to this woman who I think she's a political science professor at Cornell. She was it was sort of interesting hearing her because she wasn't really making apologetics for the Chinese, but she was saying stuff like, "Oh well, like people don't really understand that China doesn't really have like a 10-year, 100-year plan. They're kind of just doing things on the fly. They don't know what's going to work and what isn't going to work." Um, uh, but I feel like China is definitely it's a really interesting situation because they're huge economic power, one of the biggest in the world, possibly even bigger than us. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether you calculate that on GDP or on CPI or whatever numbers you use to establish um, uh, like China's economic presence. Um, a lot of those numbers are probably going to be higher than us just because of population size and utilization is probably
Well,
higher. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, our GDP is way higher.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
we dominate. Like our economy is still dominant. We're
yeah,
still
that's
easily the #1 economy, but they're predicting that we'll be overtaken in the next 10 to 15 years by
right.
China. But a lot of it's like, you know, a lot of the production for our companies is over in China anyway. So
Yeah, right. And I guess also from what I've heard, uh, essentially this woman was arguing that we should ally with China in some things and then take a stand against the Chinese regime in other cases. So this Hong Kong, this Hong Kong situation, would essentially beckon us to side with the people of Hong Kong against the Chinese regime, and to put down a foot in either in moral support or through diplomacy or through some, because there's no way, no one wants to have a military conflict with China. I'm pretty sure, like this.
No.
Like, I'm pretty even sure, like, the most hawkish people on Twitter don't want a war with China. They
literally can't.
Yeah.
It would have to be a Cold War.
Yeah,
we
right.
Fight with proxies and we fight economically, because we've both got huge nuclear arsenals. So and ICBMs. There's no way
right
we could ever have a conventional fight.
No.
But like what I've said is their economy is like one of the greatest threats to the United States is the Chinese economy. We have to find a way to cripple it and keep it from overtaking us. One of the things we could do is start ramping up automation to literally bring production back here, which wouldn't bring back any jobs, but if we could start completely automating production, and in order to do that, we'd have to implement something like UBI, or
right.
And we couldn't. I just don't see any way we could actually do and not. Like I say socialism, but when I'm talking about it in this sense, I'm talking about actual social. Like the state controls production. But I think that if you did UBI, it could allow us to actually automate a lot more stuff, because we're not going to ever be able to compete. We're never going to be able to get our workers to work for the slave wages that the people in China
work. Right.
So I think that we have to do something to cripple them, and that's also why having strong, tight allies helps, because the world is united against them.
Right, yeah. I was actually trying to explain to someone, like, less than a month ago on a Discord server. He was making the argument that, like, oh, well, we should just, like, China's going to be the biggest world power anyway. Like, what? It's like, we should just basically succumb to them, you know? And, like, this guy was making this argument on the basis of, oh, well, they're gonna overtake us anyway, so it's just more practical to just, like, give up. And it's like,
oh my god.
And he was also saying, like, oh, well, NATO is not is not going to be the force that's going to like ensure world stability, because it fucked up in places like Iraq and Afghanistan and whatever. So, and this guy posed himself as a moderate, and I sort of had to tell him that NATO has some of the most powerful nations in the world in it, and there's no reason why we shouldn't see them as the world police.
If you're thinking NATO's the most it's so much stronger than anything that's ever, like, you talk about the United States being this sole superpower. You include all of NATO,
it's like if people
dominate the world. Like that's
he was,
the benefit of NATO.
And this guy was also saying that, like, oh no, the other thing he said was, oh well, there are only 33 countries in NATO, and what I didn't say, and what I should have said is, well, okay, the U.S. is in NATO, France is in NATO, Japan's in NATO, literally every strong, like,
the entire
G8,
world, like the entire first world is in NATO.
Right.
Other than, and this is why you have the distinction of the second world, which is the communist countries like Russia and China. They're the only world powers that are not in NATO, are communist nations and, like, former communist nations, basically. Right. As far as, like, powerful, strong countries go, as far as I know, I can't think of anyone like that.
Is India in NATO? Is India in NATO? Is that India?
I don't think India is. No, I don't even think Japan is. I don't think Japan's in NATO.
I thought they were.
I would doubt it. It's the North Atlantic Treaty, mostly the United States and Europe, and I think Canada. So I don't. We've started adding a lot of these former Soviet states, which is what has kind of upset Russia. That was really what.
Yeah, I mean there was that whole debate about adding Montenegro, right?
Yeah. I think there's several nations that want to apply. I can't remember if Turkey's in or not. There's a lot of
Yes,
nations in
Turkey
between.
is in NATO, which is problematic because Erdogan's an asshole. But
Yeah, but like predominantly when I think of NATO, essentially all of Europe and the United
the
States
states, okay, yeah, you're
and
right.
Canada, which
You're right.
Canada's like the 51st state. So.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, for some reason I thought whatever. But yeah, I mean it's sort of China's become increasingly it's really interesting because the policy of the U.S. with China within the past like 20 years has just sort of been like, oh well, we could do trade with them, and eventually they'll you know accept liberal democracy, and like they'll accept and like that was sort of my position going into the China question at first, but now looking at it and looking at how the Chinese are spending a lot more money on their military arsenal, it's just becoming increasingly obvious to me that the Chinese regime, the communist regime, is not going anywhere anytime soon. And sure, like there are a lot of people in China who hate the communist regime and what it stands for, but they're not going anywhere anytime soon. And we do need to be concerned about this as a nation, and and it should be a priority in national security. That's a
Yeah,
lot.
and
Oh,
I was glad to hear in the debates that when they asked them what's the biggest threat, they pretty much nailed that section. Other than there's a couple idiots that said climate change, which is not that is not what they're asking. When they're asking like geopolitical threats, that's not part of the question.
wait. So
Uh,
who did Tulsi Gabbard say that?
no, I don't know what she said. I don't remember. It wasn't climate
She
change.
probably
I
said
think
the
she said
neoliberals and the neoconservatives are the biggest threat
no,
to our
no. You know,
nation.
I think she probably said nuclear weapons, which is a fine answer. Nuclear proliferation's a good answer. I don't remember if that's what she said. Probably not. But a lot of them said nuclear proliferation, which is essentially saying we don't want Iran and North Korea. We don't want North Korea to develop their technology further than they have, their
Right.
delivery systems, which from what I know now, uh, I learned recently. Like, it was in a stream with you, I think, or it was in somebody's stream where I didn't realize how advanced their delivery systems were. I thought they had a chance of hitting the West Coast. I knew they could hit Hawaii, Alaska, but then
Right.
someone told me they have missiles that can hit Chicago like accurately, and so I'm like, oh crap,
Yeah.
well,
Right.
that's everything. But yeah, them it's mainly North Korea and Iran is what they're talking about.
Hmm.
And then the third was they said China and Russia a lot. A lot of them said that.
Really, I'm
Russia was
surprised.
kind of an easy answer because they were saying Russia because they hacked our elections. And the
Right.
only other answer was Donald Trump is the greatest, which that's not bad either. Um, that's not a bad answer.
It's not. No, it's not. But I'm surprised a lot of them, like, I I guess like Kamala Harris said China too.
I don't remember everyone's specific answer. I just remember the answers that were given.
Yeah.
So I don't remember who said what. I just remember the main ones were
China
nuclear
and Russia
proliferation,
and
China, Russia, Trump, and climate change
climate
were like
change.
the
Yeah.
five.
Uh. Yeah. No. But yeah, I mean, China's becoming an increasingly more important national security risk, for sure.
Yeah, it's the new Cold War, which I
Right.
think is a term Tulsi Gabbard uses, but that's not wrong. It's going to be between us and China because they're becoming, and Russia and them are kind of buddied up, but
Right.
it's
Yeah,
less
but
over.
that's sort of like a
But
side
Russia,
problem.
yeah, Russia's on the way down. China's on the way up. So
Right.
it's more between us and China, and increasingly it will be more between us and China, and less us and Russia. Unless Russia, I mean, who knows? They're trying to make plays and comebacks. So
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the Syria conflict, but um, I mean, from what I can tell, from when I looked into the Syria conflict last time, the Russians were still bombing the shit out of yeah, they were still bombing the shit out of like I think Afrin and those areas. Um, I guess that would have been like 6 months ago or something. I can't quite remember, um, but they're still in that area. I think Anthony um, people like Anthony, or like uh, people on Twitter would definitely know more about this than I would. But um, but yeah, it's we'll see what happens. Is
Yeah.
um,
I think we've talked foreign policy to death, basically.
yeah, no, it's but I guess the last thing on the list here that I just wanted to talk about is this whole I, if anyone who follows me on Twitter, I don't really I don't really want to uh, like focus a lot of my videos on politics, mostly because uh, I mean politics can be sort of depressing, and there are other things that I'm interested in. Um, so I kind of put this other category, random shit, here. I don't mind talking about politics in streams like this. Like this has been a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
uh, I definitely want to make videos that are not politics related. So I'm actually
Yeah.
writing. I'm writing a.
I literally have a second channel where I just talk about other things.
No,
This one's basically
I
about
want it. I
politics.
want it to be all one channel because this represents me and like what I'm
Yeah.
interested in. But so, I mean, everybody knows about Etika. Etika was a streamer, who he did stuff like this. Let me just go to. I'm sure Etika Smash Bros reaction. So he was basically like a Nintendo reaction channel. So like this is like the reveal to Smash Ultimate.
Please take a look.
Like look at his fucking
Oh
face
my
here.
God.
He looks so
Oh my
happy.
God. Yo, new battlefield, baby. Oh my God, Mario. Yo, this game looks crazy. Holy shit. Yo, Samus.
Yeah, so he was a reaction streamer, and I've known about him for years, mostly because over the years of his entire YouTube career, he definitely got himself into a lot of controversies, and he got himself into like there was one time he I was not a big fan of Etika, mostly because there was one time just to explain some backstory here. The new Pokemon game was released probably, I think it was like in 2016, and he got a cracked copy of this new Pokemon game, and he was playing the game and making videos about the game 2 weeks before it was officially released in the U.S. And I think he got banned off of the online mode for that because Nintendo found out what was happening, and they just kicked off all the players who were using the online service like before the game was released, and then that sort of like lessened my impression of Etika, but but I feel like that sort of took a turn this week when he literally, I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen the video by now, but he had this video where he talks about how he's just reacted so horribly and he needs to. I'm not going to play the video, it's pretty depressing. He literally just
Yeah.
talks about how he's going to kill himself and how.
I'll be right back in like a couple.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll just keep talking. So I'm not gonna play the video mostly because it's super depressing, and he just talks about how he's gonna kill himself and how he has to pay for his sins, and yeah, it's a really really sad situation. And what I'm interested in now is the drama surrounding Etika's passing, because this has nothing to do with Etika specifically, but Keemstar did an interview with Etika. I think it was oh god, it was like last month or something. So Keemstar, Etika interview. So yeah, there's this clip where he says, "Why not jump off a cliff?" Right? And he says, "Oh well, he's a fucking nut job," and he was saying some really, you know, Keemstar's sort of right. Like he was saying some really, really crazy shit. I'll just play the interview briefly for those who aren't up to date with this stuff. So, alright, Keemstar's doing this thing. Yeah, so he's on the phone with him
It's all
here.
been pre-designed.
Everything. It's all predestined, Keemstar.
But the
Everything
scariest-
you've done up until this point.
But the scariest thing about thinking that the world is a simulation and it's predestined and all that is then there's no reason to live. Why not?
Why do you fear death?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's scary because if you really think about it, then why live? Just jump off a cliff. If it's just a simulation, who cares?
Now, that line in particular, "Why not just jump off a cliff?" that got Keemstar into a lot of shit. And there was actually a really, there was a interaction on Twitter that took place in response to this. And let me just go to... So I'm going to Justin Wang's account because, yeah, he was involved in this exchange. Come on, where is it? Da da da. He makes a lot of tweets. I hope Justin Wang doesn't mind me making content off of his Twitter feed, but geez, I think, yeah. So this fucking guy makes this, yes. Kareem Jovian. I'm having a big meeting with YouTube soon. We are going to talk about Keemstar and his enabling and bullying behavior. This man is toxic, and something has to be done about his platform. Please send any videos, edits, or photos of Keemstar bullying or enabling mental illness. Now, to be clear, Keemstar is not an angel. He's been throughout his entire YouTube career. He's been involved with a bunch of different controversies. Everything from swatting to doxing to all sorts of shit. Some, yeah. So I'm talking about this guy Kareem Jovian.
So I've been listening. I've been back.
Oh yeah. So
Swatting and doxing.
yeah. So I mean, Keemstar was sort of. Keemstar's not an angel, but to want to deplatform someone with regards to this particular incident, and the reason why he's doing this, I mean, it could, it could be because he's just trying to get views and trying to put out his platform or whatever. But to deplatform someone based on just based on this incident alone with the because this was in response to the Etika incident.
Okay, so you're saying this guy was...
Yeah, so this guy made this tweet basically in response to the Etika incident, and he said, "Oh, well, Keemstar is a bully, and we need to kick him off YouTube." And Justin Wang comes in, and he's like, "Hell yeah, dude! Actively campaign to get people banned from the platform for being toxic, as if there's not enough problems on here already. And then Roman from No Fuckers, another YouTube celebrity, chimes in and he says, "Are you really defending Keemstar right now?" And here's the thing, right? There are things like Keemstar is a very flawed guy, but I don't think I would kick him off the platform.
No, I like Keemstar. I don't know much. Maybe I don't know enough about him to. From what I've seen, I think he's okay.
Yeah, and it kind of. And then Justin Wang fucking responds, "Yes, and I also have no respect for YouTubers who cry to mommy to tighten shit up even more." And this is sort of a recurring pattern with this shit, with YouTube drama. It's either someone calls someone else a pedophile, or someone else tries to appeal to YouTube to get someone kicked off the platform for being a bully. We saw this with Carlos Maza about a couple weeks ago with the whole Crowder situation. We've seen this numerous times over the course of a long period of time, where we have these people who will just always appeal to the powers that be at YouTube just to get people kicked off the platform. As I said, Keemstar's sort of a flawed guy, but I feel like I have to defend Keemstar here. And I feel like a lot of other people are as well. Yeah. And then No Fuckers comes back and he's like, "Oh, the Keen Etika shit isn't serious enough." The thing is that if you watch that clip, they were talking about jumping off of a building with regards to living in a simulation, right? Keemstar was just referring to the fact that, hey, living in a situation thinking that you live in a simulation is dangerous, because maybe that may make you think oh, well, I could just jump off a building because I'm God. And sure, you could talk about the wording, but even then, it sort of becomes nitpicky at that point.
It was just a bad sound clip, and it's unfortunate, obviously, given what happened. But yeah, I saw the whole content, and I don't.
Yeah.
Anyone could say something like that in a conversation, even if it's with someone who's kind of crazy, but.
Right. Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. It's bad luck, I think. I don't think, and like I said before, this is not. Keemstar's not the reason that guy had a mental breakdown, and he's not the reason he killed himself. It's.
I think it's a number. It was a mixture of a number of things. The guy was just constantly. He was sort of caught up in the whole social. He literally. I didn't play the video for obvious reasons, but Etika, before he died, his last video to the public, he literally said "Oh, well, my head was caught up in social media, and social media consumed me, and it basically fucked me up for the foreseeable future, and it basically ruined." He says that it ruined his life, and I can understand that, because if you're a high profile internet celebrity, and you don't have a personality that is, where you're totally made out of steel, your vulnerable side is going to come out sooner or later. And sure, I feel like people need to recognize that, but at the same time, I feel like we all need to be a little bit more honest about where how online discourse is sort of fucking up people's lives. Ironically enough.
Yeah, I think that you kind of have to expect that. I would never want to be like as big as he was, or anyone really. Like I would never attention on me, because I already get like these like big, whenever people like will quote tweet you or send you out to their
Yeah, like what shoe on head unnecessarily did to you with regards to the Iran thing.
Her and Hassan Piker and Jake from Hugo and Jake, all these people were doing these things, and it's just like, man, like you could respond to me just in my comments and talk to me in the in the thread.
Right,
but they decide to like basically clip me out and send me to their giant followings, and so like and it doesn't bother me. I'll sit there and argue with people all day. I like to argue with people. It doesn't bother
right.
me, but I get and I expect it, so it doesn't bother me that much. But like for people that don't, and someone like, if you're just a normal guy and you become some celebrity, I could really see that messing with you. I would never want to do that, even intentionally. Like it's just too many eyes on you and too much. Like people are just horrible to other people on the internet. So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think like, there are times, and like in terms of internet banter, like, I mean, we as an audience, like you see this sort of like in if you keep up with like the Medicare lore all the time, like he's getting sued by this guy who, like there's this guy named Drummer.
I was watching that today, actually,
right before you hopped on to here.
Yeah, he has a live stream going about that I was watching.
Oh my god, yeah. He's getting sued for... I don't even know what he's getting sued for.
He's not really gonna get sued. That guy's just some idiot who's threatening all kinds of crazy... Maybe he will, I don't know, but...
Well, I mean, at this point, no one knows who Medicare is. He's still anonymous.
No, he got doxxed.
Oh, really? When did that happen?
It's real because there's so many. He's been doxxed, fake doxxed so many times, and he constantly puts out. At least what people say is that he puts out fake doxes on himself, and so like I don't know if it's real, but apparently a while back he got doxxed on Kiwi Farms, and it seems to be, from what everyone says, it seems to be credible, but.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the comments here real quick. Keemstar needs to be contained. I don't know. I feel like Keemstar is like he's like the villain we need on YouTube. Like he makes YouTube interesting.
That's kind of a joke. He's been saying that about everybody. The communists and like China, and he said that about everything we met.
But yeah, I don't think Keemstar should be deplatformed. He's the villain we need. And unless he goes and quote tweets his audience, I mean, he kind of does that, but it's kind of, when he does it, it's sort of in good jest. When like someone like
there's a way you can do that, like Stefan Molyneux.
Yeah, Stefan Molyneux seems to be a good sport. I mean,
he's liked like responses I've said when I'm like arguing with him. Like as crazy as I think he is, he's definitely a good sport. He's fun.
Yeah, like
he does it in a fun kind of lighthearted way. He's not like, oh my god, you're a sociopath, and I'm gonna quote tweet you and then block you. It's like,
dude, I think like that's like the craziest thing I've ever. It's like within the past month, that's like one of the craziest exchanges I've ever seen from like on Twitter. Between fucking you have like what 100 followers or something, and she has a lot, and
what was weird was that was happening to me. Like it was like this whole. Well, I've been a lot more active on Twitter, way more in the past month. I've been more active on Twitter than I have in the rest of my life, just because of situations, circumstances, and I just kind of got into it. I don't know, and I've been arguing with people, and. Yeah, it happened to me so many, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just the things that I say. I have no clue.
Yeah, I think like the things that you were saying
Getting
were
blocked so much that it's like now I never realized, like, it's so weird now because I've been blocked by a bunch of like popular people that are kind of other people talk about in like our circles, and so like there's so many tweets that I don't get. Someone quote tweeting someone, and I have no idea what it does because it's just like you've been blocked or this tweet's unavailable. Because it was like all these people, Dave Rubin, Carlos Massa blocked me.
Oh, really?
Both of the what was it, Godless Cranium and
yeah, what the hell? I thought Cranium was cool. What the fuck?
Yeah.
He's been hanging out with a lot of the SJU crowd as of recent, so
Oh, what's up, Progressive Warhawk? You decided not to join us, I see.
He's in the chat.
I guess.
Sorry, late to the party. Yeah. But oh man, we might wrap it up in like 10 minutes or so, but yeah, so like but that's so funny that like you whenever I see your responses, they're just like asking a simple question of like, oh, like with regards to even like with regards to the shoe on head incident, right? When you said something along the lines of, oh, like it's like Iran's kind of our enemy, and the Iranian regime's.
That wasn't even the fucked up thing about that. Was that wasn't even, I wasn't even talking to her. I was talking to someone else in a thread that she had made and arguing with them, and she screen captured it and then sent that out as a tweet, and I didn't even know about it. Except one of her other followers took one of my tweets and like quote tweeted it to be like, oh, look at his crappy Photoshop in this thing that he posted that he's proud of. And I was like, what? Who is this person? I clicked on it. That's how I found out, because she didn't tag me. She didn't quote tweet me. She screen captured a conversation I had with someone else and tweeted it out to all of her people.
That's the worst, man. Like when you don't. I mean, at least when you get quote tweeted, like when I get quote tweeted, I know like, oh, okay, like it's like me and this other person like are at some sort of wavelength that we're having. Even though it might be a combative conversation, we're still having a conversation. When you just I forget what the term is, but it's essentially it's sort of like basically if they go and talk behind your back, like I feel like a lot of the leftist accounts are pretty notorious for doing that. Like they'll just screen cap screen cap something out of context and
they like to quote tweet, or like the worst is when they'll quote tweet and then like Jake from Hugo and Jake, or the Bible Reloaded, he does this a lot where he'll quote tweet you and then he'll above that type a comment and put in quotes something that you didn't say, like that was not at all what you said.
Oh, okay, that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
Stupid. Like he did that when I wasn't even white knighting Richard Spencer. It was basically people were arguing that Richard Spencer wants to kill all black people. And I said, I don't think he wants to do that.
I mean, it is retarded.
I think what I said was Richard Spencer doesn't want to kill all black people. And he quote tweeted me and said, oh, so as long as you don't want to kill all black people or brown people, racism is fine. And he quote tweeted me and then put quotes. And I was like, that's not what I didn't say racism was.
Yeah, well, once the cat's out of the bag, like it just spirals out of control. And
people about that, and I don't even care. Like, I don't like Richard Spencer. I think he is a racist, but I don't
right.
think he wants to enact a Holocaust on black people.
Right. I mean, it is different. Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's in some ways it's like it's even.
He's just a more flamboyant version of Milo Yiannopoulos. He's not like I don't know where these people are.
I mean, you could make a pretty good argument that like Richard Spencer's even more of a threat than someone like the KKK, because Richard Spencer, if you look at him, like, you know, you don't think that he's a racist or basically a Nazi LARPer, but
Well, I do. I think he's a racist, and he definitely. I don't think he's a neo-Nazi, but he does. You could call him a LARPer.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
he is a LARPer and he is a racist. But my
he
argument
doesn't
is that
English. He
he's
says "Hail Victory," which is the English translation.
oh
of
yeah,
that.
which
So
is it's definitely a dog whistle, and
yeah, it's a joke. It's one of those alt-right. Some of them are actual neo-Nazis. Some of them are trolling. Some of them are being edgy. It's all in between, and it makes it hard to tell who's for real and who isn't.
yeah, I mean that was sort of the thing with like the PewDiePie shooter, right? Like well, actually no, the PewDiePie shooter was like I think that guy was pretty fucking dumb because he tried to like utilize some of like the alt right sort of meme culture in his manifesto, and he just did a fucking awful job because it's so clear that that guy is just a tryhard, and that guy was just trying to he was trying so hard to be edgy, and he was trying so hard to turn
Yeah, shooting of a mosque is pretty edgy.
yeah, but it was just he was just trying to juxtapose himself in a position where it's like, oh hey guys, like I just did it for a joke, like
I don't think that's what I mean,
yeah, if you read the
obviously,
manifesto, that's kind of what it was. Like the guy literally
he integrated a bunch of the meme stuff, but that's what I'm saying is there's these people who do all the memes and they do all the jokes, people from Poll, and so you never know. Like there's people on there who are serious about the things they're saying. Probably
right.
The majority aren't, but like they're obviously like that guy.
Yeah.
He was pretty damn serious. Like he wasn't.
Yeah, like he called himself an eco-fascist. That's what he called himself. He called himself an eco-fascist, which is it's probably a meme too. But I mean, that's sort of like what's dangerous about the alt-right is you don't know who are the actual racists and who's just joining in on the memes.
They're all the actual bad guys are all shielding themselves behind all these other people who are like, oh, it's just a joke. Oh, it's memes. It's just funny.
Right.
I mean, they're all right wing. They're all far right, but a lot of them aren't. The majority of them aren't violent. They're not.
And they don't support that. They don't support the mosque shooting or didn't.
They don't. But then they joke about it, and then there's people who are like, oh, I see what he's getting at. And it's like, like,
yeah, yeah, but that's really nuts. I feel like on Twitter I haven't really been as combative. I've chimed in here and there. I don't know. I've been retweeting just silly stuff with a mix of foreign policy stuff with a mix of some shit postiness, which has been fun. Which has been definitely more fun than getting into huge arguments with internet celebrities. However, I did with response.
I think that's kind of fun too, because then I get to argue, and their supporters are all crazy and.
Oh yeah, they're really nuts.
I like arguing with people, otherwise I wouldn't do it.
Right.
I woke up one day and I was like, I'm just gonna respond to every single notification I get, and like, because I woke up with like 20 because of something. That was the Richard Spencer one, which that might have been a mistake. Because then I was like, oh.
Oh wait, you were arguing with alt-right trolls?
What, you cut out?
Yeah, you were arguing with alt-right trolls in Richard Spencer's.
No. I was arguing with people about. That was what I talked about earlier.
Oh, with Papa Jake,
he
right?
wants to kill all black people.
Yeah, right.
My position was he doesn't. Was kind of what I was saying, and I was called. Dude, I got death threats over that. There was a communist that popped off in there who thought he had like this big gotcha thing, which because I'd been arguing that the day before, and someone had already brought up this out of context article that had been posted on his website, which I already knew, and it wasn't written by him, and it probably wasn't approved by him, and in the context, it wasn't saying what it appeared to be saying. It was basically comparing. It was someone saying a bunch of terrible like stuff, but they were comparing it it was about like black genocide or something, but they were comparing it to what was going on in South Africa, and they were essentially saying this is happening, but with white people. But they cut all of that out, and so I made the guy look like an idiot because I already had the screen captures, like everything was already ready to go because I already argued with someone about it the day before, and then he just went ape shit. And like he was telling me that I was a Nazi and a Nazi sympathizer, and he's like, "You're gonna get the bullet too, and yeah, I'm gonna kill you." And like it was just like,
What
you
the
know,
fuck?
and I was like, "Dude, like the only
What? All you did was, hey, Richard Spencer doesn't want to kill black
No,
people.
I proved him wrong, like directly, like because he brought up this article and was like, "This is Richard Spencer literally saying that he wants to enact a black genocide," and I was like, well, he didn't even write that article. That's not written by him, and like I had all of stuff to prove it. I gave it to
right.
him, and I think that just made him butthurt because, like, that hurts. If that's ever happened to you, and you make some point, and someone just directly, like, completely proves you wrong, that's really frustrating.
It is really frustrating.
And so I think it just got under his skin, and then I just kept talking to him, and he was also a communist, and I was comparing what they were saying to communism. And I was
Okay.
saying, well, if you're for, because they were saying, oh, he's for this and that necessarily means he's gonna have to kill people. And I was like, well, you wouldn't say that about, like, because I don't think that about communists, because they were saying the ethno-state implies that he wants to do a genocide or kill people. And I was like, not necessarily. I think he's wrong. I think it would necessarily mean you'd have to be violent, but he doesn't think so. And I don't think that about communists who want to have a communist revolution, which necessarily would involve killing people and a bunch of death. And I think that's what popped him off too, because he was a literal communist. So,
Well, you know what's really funny is that guy probably would agree more with Spencer than that person realizes, because actually Richard Spencer came out and said that Chapo Trap House plays literally like an alt-right podcast, and I'm sure that guy listens to Chapo Trap House, and so he probably agrees more with Richard Spencer than he realizes. Like, I still think
yeah, well, he's so, like I said, socially more conservative, but fiscally very socialist.
yeah.
That's what a lot of the
Yeah,
alt-right is.
nationalist socialist is coming back.
Social, what is it?
National
National socialism.
yeah, National Socialism.
What Nazis were, yeah.
Socialism only for white people.
Basically, yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a fun time.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, dude.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the stream shit
Yeah.
that I was dealing with earlier. But
Understandable.
but yeah, no, I think so for those who are watching, thanks all for coming. I do plan on, I'm writing a script for a video right now. I'm trying to, I want to make, if you've seen my Charlie Kirk video I did about 6 months ago, I was pretty damn proud of that. Because I did a lot of editing and like research went into that. So I want to make more videos like that, more video essay sorts of things that are not necessarily related to politics. But I kind of do like these streams, and maybe like we could do this like once every 2 weeks or something, because like there was a time last year where Reese from Nightmare Fuel would like do a stream like once every 2 weeks about foreign policy, and all of us would get on, and it was such a good time, and I sort of miss it, because I mean we're all suffering, but hey, you know it's better if we suffer together. So
yeah, I like doing the streams better than individual video or individual.
right, and I don't think
run out of things to say, and I'm just like.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm down anytime you wanna do a stream, man. We can do one on my channel sometime.
Oh, also,
I would
yeah.
probably just do it in Google Hangouts though, because that's easier for me.
Yeah, no. That's fine. I guess I'll. I guess we could just stop streaming for now. But
Yeah,